Like every time it's happened for us, we're like,
absolutely.
Oh, we have to stop this. This is bad. There's a realization that I remind myself throughout the years. Really, the Lord is in control of my children and their futures. Thank you, Lord, for another day of Noelle's life.
How do you squash entitlement?
Do you think we're materialistic or not?
Hi, welcome back to Our Family B. If you're already part of the OFB community, go ahead and hit the like button.
But if you're new to our channel, here's what you need to know.
I'm Brigitte, I'm a mom. We have 2 kids, a 5-year-old boy and a 1-year-old girl, and I work full-time as an ultrasound tech at a hospital.
And I'm Brandon, I have the same kids, and I work full-time as a pastor on staff at a local church.
We release videos every Tuesday and Friday. We do videos on grocery hauls and meal prepping and budgeting and marriage videos and everything that goes into growing a healthy family.
We're all about building an online community of people who want to grow together, and we want you to be a part of it. So go ahead and click that subscribe button if that sounds good to you.
This video is really exciting for us because we got to sit down with our friends Sarah and Solo from Our Tribe of Many to glean from their wisdom on parenting.
Yeah, this is actually part 1 of that conversation. Part 2 is all about raising godly kids. That one's coming out next week.
So seriously, if you want to hear what they have to say about that, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. All right, let's get into it.
You guys, thank you so much for taking the time.
We collectively added up your years of parenting experience. And what was it? 184 years?
Yeah, what's the damage?
It was 84
sorry,
years.
Sorry, 84. I'm sorry.
But important question though, that's just adding the kids' ages. But there are 2 of you.
So do we double that?
Yeah.
I mean,
So is it 84 years or is it 168 years?
Combined experience, yeah.
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 Boy, 84, that's a lot. That surprised me.
I mean, compared to our 6.
Yeah.
I think you would think we're a lot wiser by now, but I don't feel any wiser.
That's why I have no hair, Brandon. You keep on combing that hair, dude, you know?
Yep, that's the 6 right there.
We're getting there, brother. So for any of you who don't know, Sarah and Solo are lead pastors of Lincoln City Church in Nebraska. And Sarah, you grew up there, and Solo, you took over as lead pastor a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it'll be 7 years here in a couple months, so.
Oh, 7. Okay, so 7 years Solo has been the lead pastor there, and Sarah also has created Our Tribe of Many, and most of you probably already know about this YouTube channel. If you don't, you should probably go subscribe to it because you'll absolutely love it. Oh, and also they have 10 kids. So between the 2 of them, they know way more about parenting than we will ever get to until we get to heaven. So we are really honored to get to spend some time with them and glean from their wisdom a little bit.
I started following before you guys changed your name because you had, I think, 8 children, and you were Our Tribe of 10.
Yep.
And then you had 2 more, so you had to change the name, and there's 12 of you now. And so I have just seen your growth in the channel, and I just love watching you guys. You're so encouraging. I love that you're so authentic, that I never feel like you're putting on a front and that you're just portraying the good. I mean, obviously, when there are things that are personal to our children or to our marriage, we cover those things and we don't air them out on the internet, but you guys are just so positive and you share what's real. So whether that be kids screaming in the background because they're having way too much fun or having a meltdown, like you guys are just so real.
Or one has pushed the other down.
Yeah. You guys are just so real, and I think that's why we just feel such a connection with you guys and why your audience also feels the same. So we're thankful to be here, and we just want to start off with a question that we asked you a couple months ago, and that was in regards to whining and children whining repeatedly about the same thing. And you gave us some advice that was very helpful.
And animated. You gave some examples, and so I.
Yeah, so we just wanted to ask if you could share that again with everyone who's watching, because we found it helpful.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that intro. That was very kind of you guys. We have enjoyed getting to know you.
By the way, people, we paid them a lot of money to give us a intro. So.
You might have paid her. She didn't tell me about it, man.
Yeah, the whining. I do not remember talking about whining when that was over dinner, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know how we deal with whining.
Right.
We don't listen to it, which is super hard. And what happens with whining is it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's horrible. Where it didn't just, you didn't recognize it from the beginning maybe, so you responded to it, and then it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So when we come to that aha moment, like, this child is a whiner right now, then we make a conscious decision to stop listening to it. Usually that's how it's happened organically in our house. And so then we say, I don't listen to the whining voice. Or what do you say all the time? Crying voice. He calls it a crying voice.
I don't understand crying language.
That.
I'm going to understand crying language. I'm going to talk, so... Yeah, so kind of say again. So
and then they have to say it right, and then we'll listen and respond. Otherwise, if they just don't listen and keep going,
I don't speak that language,
Yeah, we just keep moving like we truly don't understand them, like it's a foreign language.
That's so good.
I feel like we tried it and then we forgot.
Yeah.
Because lately it has returned.
It happens.
It's a constant deal.
It sneaks right in there, and you respond to it in a hurry, and you forget, and it has to be very conscious, but. I like every time it's happened for us, we're like,
absolutely.
Oh, we have to stop this. This is bad.
Right.
So then,
have you found with your kids that, especially when they're young, I feel like I often forget how little they are and how much they don't know. And so, for instance, our son Benjamin, who's 5, he'll be like, water, and I'm like, no, you need to say, Mommy, can I have my water, please? And then he'll repeat it, and it's like I have to remind them. Or tell them how to behave politely. Yeah. Like, is that something that you guys have found too?
Yeah, sometimes.
I feel like we're always just kind of saying that with every young one, like, water, please, or...
Or is there a better way to ask for that?
Yeah,
so I put it on them to actually, because I know they already know, they're just being lazy. Oftentimes, like, we get lazy as adults, kids get lazy over certain things. We just get lazy over different things. So oftentimes I'll pose it back to them. Hey, is there a better way to ask that? Just to kind of gauge where they're at. And oftentimes they know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that consistency over time. I was thinking about that very thing the other day. Like, I keep reminding them to say please. And then I realized my other kids, they came to the place where they just did it after a while. So that consistency of just reminding them, eventually they pick it up. It works. Just staying consistent just works a lot. So.
And that's hard.
There are two extremes, I think, in the way we watch over our kids, and we all know about the helicopter parent who's constantly watching everything, and the kid can never get a boo-boo right. But then there's like the other extreme where you just let them run free and they end up getting hurt because you actually are being neglectful. None of us want to be on those extremes. I think we're all trying to figure out the balance. You guys have had a lot of opportunities to figure out what that looks like. Do you think there's a balance to be struck somewhere in there? And how have you found it? And can you tell us about it?
You want to answer that, or you want me to?
You go for it.
Well, I think that I tend to naturally, I think some personalities play into it to begin with. I'm a little more relaxed maybe than he is anyway, but I do think even my relaxedness, sometimes I can worry like I'll be too relaxed, like you said, on the extreme. And so for me, there's a realization that I remind myself throughout the years is that really the Lord is in control of my children and their future. So I do the best I can as a parent, but I do not determine what happens to them. Like the bad thing can happen whether you're a helicopter parent or you're the complete opposite, which what's the word of that one? I don't know. But the complete opposite of that, or if you're or if you're hovering, either way, things can go wrong. So really, our children are ours just to care for. They're the Lord's children, and so I have to remind myself that. Yeah. And just do the best I can. And when the Lord prompts me on something like, "Hey, check on that kid," I do it. I follow that voice when I always assume it's the Lord. Mm-hmm. Whether the kid was fine or that kid had wandered around the backyard into the front, whatever it was, whether it turned out like there was nothing or there was, I always follow that voice when I hear it and act on it right away. But kids have to be kids too. Kids need to play, and we can't live our lives in fear either because we really have very little control. And I think the more we are parenting and going through, the more we realize all the time that we really don't have that as much control as
we think we do.
We think we might.
Yeah, it's really the grace of God, and that's how the balance is. I think that the first and foremost thing is what, just reiterating what Sarah's already said, is that just full understanding that I'm not in control. Number one, I'm a steward. You know, if anything, I've just been given the responsibility for a time being for God's kids. So if I do my best job, then I got to leave it to the Lord because, you know, there are people that harbor around, but they're not exempt from trouble. They get, sometimes I've actually seen worse over people that harbor around, you know. So it's a real balance.
When Noelle was 2, I think, 1.5, 2, we moved into this house, and it was a big change in her life. And she was an escapee. I don't know if you've had an escapee, but they can escape out of anywhere. And so
we lived in a cul-de-sac before that, and it was a community, just a cul-de-sac. So you could just get out.
Yes.
And
but when we moved, she was like off her bearings, and she kept escaping. And we would find ways to lock her down at night because out of fear, and still find her in her PJs out in the front yard, no matter what. And I would just come to the end.
Oh my
it happened dark one time in the evening, and I was like, how did she get out the front door? And she just loved to escape. She was just very good at it. One time she knew how to escape. Anyway, I would come to the end of every night as I put her to bed, and I would just thank the Lord for sparing her life that day. Like, thank you, Lord, for another day of Noelle's life. And it just gave me a new perspective that I really didn't have as much control, because I never had a kid that wanted to escape. And then I was able to talk to some friends and some family members that had children like that, and I found out, okay, some kids are just wired this way, but just reminded me so much that the Lord really is in control.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And Noelle is only like 6 months older than Benjamin. So like her stage of life when I see her, how is her leg doing, by the way?
Oh, she's great now.
Oh, good, yeah. Good.
A little over as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing her because she's at his level. So I'm like, oh my God. Oh yeah, he does that now. Yeah. So it's so funny to watch them.
Thrown out of that thing a long time ago now, but I think it hit her that stage just when we moved, which just alighted funny, but thankfully she's out of that because now I can sleep well at night.
Yes, true. So okay, so that was when she was like 2, and I've seen you potty train. It must have been Hope on the channel. And so we have a potty training question. Okay. We know you guys take long trips in the car. You know, to Florida is like, what, 24 hours you drive straight, which is crazy. I don't know how you do it. So how do you handle
caffeine?
How do you handle potty training in the car on trips like that when they're at that stage? Because obviously at least one of the children is probably potty training when you take trips.
Yeah, Any we just there are some battles you don't want to fight. We just buy pull-ups.
Pick your bottom.
They're called pull-ups. You can easily take it to the bathroom if you pull over in time, and if you don't, you have a pull-up.
Got a backup.
I do hear a lot of people that carry a little potty in their trunk, and then you just put a diaper in that potty, and it soaks up everything, and you can pull over in time. But we don't have room for that ever, so we just put them in pull-ups.
I wouldn't want to do it either.
So I guess if they don't want to go in the pull-up, you know, I know there are some kids that once they're potty trained, they don't want to go in the pull-up, but I guess if they don't, they hold it. I don't know.
Well, then that should give you time to pull over, I think, if they're like that.
So do you make a lot of stops on the way? Like if you're coming to Florida, how often would you say you pull over?
You know, if someone has to go, then usually we make everybody go.
No exception.
Yeah, and we're not sugary drinks. I think that's our biggest key. You only drink water on that. Mom and Dad need caffeine, but the kids only get water because that's what they usually drink. And if they're drinking some sort of special, like we get special snacks, but if we got special drinks, woo, we'd never make it.
Nope.
We'd still be.
Yeah. You know what? I actually passed on your wisdom with the juice and potty training to a fellow mom who was about to potty train. And I said, you know, the juice actually helps them to feel like they need to go and go more often, so it gives you more opportunity. And she's like, oh, I never thought about that. I was like, I know you don't normally do juice. And this mom that I learned it doesn't either. But when you're potty training, I've heard it works wonders. So
exactly.
It does help.
She told me that. I had no idea.
Yeah. I learned it from you, Sarah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So how do you squash entitlement? How do you help your children to, one, not be spoiled and feel like they deserve everything, but also, you know, love on them and give them gifts and encourage them and, you know, grow them up to have a healthy self-esteem and all that. But how do you handle that in your home, and has it been different with different children?
Teach us your ways.
I think there are many different, and that's kind of stages, because different ages you're dealing with different things. But one of the biggest things is exposure. I think as you expose your kids to a diversity of people, groups, experiences, you know, so then at least they just kind of form the mindset of knowing that things are not always the same as they are one place. I think they're not very myopic in their thinking as they grow up. So that is, to me, I think in terms of a core area of development, I would say that exposure is one. Now, from a practical standpoint, I will divert to the practical.
Well, we did. No, that's right. But we do talk about being thankful all the time. Like,
yes.
Like, for instance, right now we're at a stage we've never been before where we have cleaners come to our house, but we talk about it every time they come. Like, we are so thankful. And if we are not feeling that thankful, we can just go back to cleaning, you know. So we talk about, like, remind all ourselves all the time of what we're thankful for. We also don't, just personally, because we didn't grow up that way, we don't buy our kids a lot of toys or things throughout the year. We save those for special things, which is birthday and Christmas at our house. And that helps. And we're always looking for people to bless and give things, like, just to, like, model
out. Another thing is that too, I guess part of it is also being materialistic driven. Do you think we're materialistic or not?
No, but we're raising our kids like different than how we grew up.
Sure.
Because we have more. So then we're always thinking that then how we have more than what we grew up with. So then we're always.
I grew up with Tarzan and the jungles of Africa.
Yeah, so it is a thought in our minds that we want them to really appreciate what they have and not take it for granted, and also that we don't need everything, maybe, you know. It's hard to explain, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job.
I think you navigate it differently though too with different ages.
Yeah, because it's a lot different in teens.
Yeah, and so.
Do you find that you deal with it much at all with the older ones? Do you feel like you've kind of raised them through it and it's not so much a deal by the time they're teenagers, or does a whole other level of it raise its head?
No, I don't. So I think as you live it out throughout, it naturally works itself out.
Nice.
I don't know what it would be to correct it when you've gone too far on the other side, but I think because you grew up training that, it just naturally works out as they grow, don't you think?
But the conversation
is different.
Yeah. And being able to expose our kids to a lot of different people, even like we talked about traveling to Florida, we love driving through the United States and we see so many different cultures and economic, like, just different neighborhoods that are way different than ours. Like, way wealthier and way poorer, and we want our kids to be exposed to a lot of different people and see how different people live. And
like in Florida, between the coasts, it's an amazing world.
Yes.
Belgrade, all those places. But they've been to those places. They've seen all that, you know? Yeah. And it's a US of A.
That's a lot more like how I grew up, is in those places. And she grew up in Jupiter. So, like, so the way we see, like, where entitlement comes up, I think my patience sometimes for it is less, but I want to strike the balance and not be overly aggressive, because I do want good things for my kids, you know what I mean? I do want them to have more than I have. Yeah. But also, I think what you said is so good, like, still expose them to a diversity of experiences of people, of the way they live, of what people do and don't have, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I like...
Right, because it ends up, you end up learning how to separate people from things, people from, so then you see people equally, no matter whether they live in Bel Air or Belgrade, you know, you somehow you're able to value people, no matter what their material possessions are. So the exposure makes you really see the good in people, and just makes people being the driver. Yeah.
That's awesome. And if you don't want to miss part 2, which is all about raising godly kids, make sure you hit the subscribe button right here and click your notifications to all so you don't miss it when it comes out next week.
If you want to know how we do our grocery hauls and keep a running list of all of the prices on the screen, then click right over here. And if you love coffee and want to know how to make the easiest, most delicious cold brew ever, then click right here.
Hit the like button if you liked it and comment down below and say hi if you're new.
Until we meet again, don't forget,
Life is better together.